Shalom, Hebrews and Shebrews. This is Oilfield Disciple. Let's do some daily bread. What do you think? Welcome to the new subscribers. We've had quite a few over the last couple of days. It's always encouraging. Uh, if you are new and you haven't not yet subscribed, you listen to a few of these. I do the daily bread, which is 4 chapters of Scripture per day. One chapter Old Testament, one chapter New, one Psalm, and then whatever the proverb of the day is. In doing so, you will get a full um, roundness of who God is. Not just, that's the mean God over there on the left side of the book, and then we have the nice God on the right side of the book. That's not who God is. And regardless of what today's wicked, deceiving pastors would have you believe, um, it's not the case. And so we read this, and I give, well, depending on the spirit, but I give slight commentary, but mainly just read the scriptures. And then beyond that, that will inspire you to go deep and do further in-depth studies on your own, or it may inspire me to do a video of a specific video, where it's, if you go look at my archives, there's around 300 or maybe 400 now videos in my archives. I've had this channel up for a little over a year, about a year and a half now. I am a pastor of a small church. Prior to that, I was a deacon for 6 years in a Baptist church, which now that I'm pastor, we're getting away from um, those roots and going where it's strictly word based. Uh, what we're going to read today in Exodus 12 is the Passover. It's the first Passover. Um, and we're going to see that God commands his children to keep this throughout their generations, a law forever. 2 years ago, me and my family began observing the Moedim, which is the 7 feast days that God commands his children to celebrate. Not holidays, but holy days. Um, and in that, we've learned so much about Yahweh and just the simple things, like Passover, getting the leaven out of your house for that week, those 8 days. Um, the first year we did it equated to me and taught me that, you get the leaven out of your home, it's like getting the sin out of your home. Uh, the second year that we did it, which is last year, uh, it dawned on me that you get the leaven out of your home, but you don't bring it back into your home. You get the sin out of your home, out of your life, but you don't bring that sin back in your life. Um, Now, we're getting the leaven out. See, we had to go look at leaven, and we had to start reading labels on everything we ate. And I just thought, we'll get the leaven out, no big deal, get a couple loaves of bread out and blah, be done with it. And it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of food that you don't realize has leaven in it. Same thing with sin. There's a lot of sin in our lives that we don't realize is sin until we begin diligently seeking the scriptures and realizing that there's a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis that's sinful, that we don't even realize is sinful. And so, with that said, if you're new to the channel, go subscribe. Uh, Share my videos. Give me the thumbs up. Give me the thumbs down. I accept criticism very well. Uh, if you're right, we'll look at it, and I'll operate accordingly. But we'll always look at it through Scripture, not our own opinions. So with that said, let me flip the camera around. Found a neat little old farmhouse out here. I'm telling how old this thing is. But anyway, um, we'll be reading Exodus chapter 12, then we'll flip over to Luke 16, and then from Luke 16 we'll read Psalms 59, and then Proverbs 30. And we may go ahead and read 31 since today's the last day of the month. And that's how I do the Proverbs. I'll either do it on the last day of the month or the first day of the month, like tomorrow. Um, if we don't read both Proverbs today, tomorrow may go ahead and read Proverbs 31 and Proverbs 1 tomorrow. Either way, Shemot. Also, if you're new to the channel, I read out of the Scriptures version of the Bible. The Scriptures is basically uh, King James version, if you went and looked it up, and the Strong's Concordance. That's the way a lot of the words are translated. So, 12:1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, This new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this new moon, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, then let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings, according to each man's need. You make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old, and take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slay it between evenings. Wait a minute. Well, I live in the city and I can't raise up a lamb. All right. The idea for us today here in this culture, if you do live in the city and you can't raise up a lamb, go to the market and get. They sell leg of lamb, lamb chops, I guess. Um, Go get something to do the feast for the Pesach, for the Passover, and it's more of a spiritual observance for us today. It's physical. Don't get me wrong, but we don't have to. We are not afforded or able to fully operate the way that He has the Israelite operate in this day and time. And so you get with other believers. Hit me up in the comments, and and I'll give you my email, and we can correspond through email, and I can explain to you how my family, does it, um, according to the way I have been shown from other families who had been doing it for a long time. Uh, so that's it. Let's read on. Where was that? Verse 6. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slay between the evenings, and they shall take some of the blood, put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of their houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave it until morning, and what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Pesach of Yahweh, Passover. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night, and shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast, and on the mighty ones of Mitzrayim I shall execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Mitzrayim. Hence the word Passover. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. Everlasting is everlasting. It's from beginning to end. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that being shall be cut off from Israel. And on the first day is a set apart gathering. And on the 7th day you have a set apart gathering. No work at all is done on them. Only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. And you shall guard the festival of Matzot. For on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. See, this is the reason why I began really diligently seeking this out and looking to see what's going on. Why pastors teach us, we don't have to do this no more. This is for the Jews. Well, first of all, most people don't know what Jews mean. Jews is just one tribe of the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. Comes from the tribe of Judah. Now, we consider the Jews today, tribe of Benjamin and tribe of Judah is considered the Jews. But see, we basically have such an anti-Semitic rhetoric in our culture today. Whether you say you do or you don't, it's fact. Um, and no, we don't do Easter. We don't do Christmas in our home. Um, I've read in Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah, that we are not to perform the traditions of the land in the culture that we reside in. I have teachings on this. You can go look it up in my archives. Verse 18, in the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon, in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new moon in the evening. For 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native of the land. This is where I was telling you earlier about getting the leaven out of your houses and that equating with sin. Do not eat that which is leavened in all your dwellings. You are to eat unleavened bread. Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, go out, take lambs for yourselves according to your clans, and slay the Pesach, or the Passover. Slay the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in blood that is in the basin, and strike it to the lintel of the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you, shall go out of his door of his house until morning. And Yahweh shall pass on to smite the Mitzrites, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts. And Yahweh shall pass over the door, and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you, as the death angel. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. See, this word forever seems to trip us up today. Forever just means for a couple of days to us here in this culture. Forever means, well, until Jesus came. No, forever means forever. And we're going to read that again. It's going to reiterate that in Luke 16 here in just a little bit. And it shall be when you come to the land which Yahweh gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, what does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, it is the Pesach, slaughtering of Yahweh, who passed over the house of the children of Israel in Mitzrayim, when he smote the Mitzrites and delivered your households. And the people bowed their heads and did obeisance. So when our children ask us, why are we doing it this way, Dad? We can come back and we can let them know that this is where it started from. This is why God commands it, and this is what we do. Then you shall say, it is the Pesach. Verse 28, and the children of Israel went away and did so, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron. So they did. And it came to be at midnight that Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Mitzrites, and there was a great cry in Mitzrayim, for there was not a house where there was not a dead one. Then he called for Moshe and Aaron by night and said, arise and go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go and serve Yahweh as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and go, then you shall bless me too. And the Mitzrites were strong on the people, to hasten to send them away out of the land. For they said, we are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe, and they had asked from the Mitzrites objects of silver, objects of gold, and the garments. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, so that they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitzrites. Okay. Plundered usually means to steal. Here, basically, they said, we want your lawnmower and your chainsaws and got any money left in your safe. We kind of want that too. And to get rid of them, they give them everything. If it wasn't nailed down, they took it. And the children of Israel set out from Ramses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. Now, Sukkot basically is camping. Now, there's a festival of Sukkot that comes. It's the last festival of the year, which is pretty cool. God commands us to go camping for 8 days. Um, verse 38. And a mixed multitude went up with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Mitzrayim, for it was not leavened, since they were driven out of Mitzrayim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. And the sojourn of the children of Israel, who lived in Mitzrayim, was 430 years. From the time of Joseph's brothers, and Jacob coming and living in the land of Mitzrayim, the land of Egypt, was 430 years. Until now, when they leave Egypt. It came to be at the end of 430 years on that same day, it came to be that all the divisions of Yahweh went out from the land of Mitzrayim. Now, the divisions of Yahweh are the 12 tribes. Or the 12 tribes come from the 12 children of Israel, or Jacob. And the sojourn of the children lived in 430 years. It came to be at the end of 430 years on that same day, it came to be that all divisions of Yahweh went out from the land of Mitzrayim. Verse 42. It is a night of watches unto Yahweh, for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This is that night of watches unto Yahweh for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And Yahweh said to Moshe and Aaron, this is the law of the Pesach. No son of the foreigner is to eat of it. Ah, wait a minute. See, now we're not to eat of it. Hold up. But any servant a man has bought for silver, when you have circumcised him, then you let him eat of it. A settler and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is eaten in one house. You are not to take any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. All the congregation of Israel are to perform it. And when a sojourner sojourns with you and shall perform the Pesach to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. That's the grafting in that Paul speaks about in Romans chapter 12. There is one Torah for the native and for the sojourner who sojourns among you. Not one law for, okay, we'll just use today's terminology. There's not just one law for the Jews and one law for the Christian. Or, let me rephrase that. Not one law for the Jews and a different law for the Christians. It's one law under God. If you are the children of Israel, if you are the children of God, you are of Israel, and there's one law for you. Whether you be native or adopted, grafted in. Verse 50. And all the children of Israel did as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did, and it came to be on that same day that Yahweh brought the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim according to their divisions. Now trust me, it is not easy coming out of hurt of my people. It is not easy of coming out of these religious systems. Today's church people, they will fight you tooth and nail. I promise you. You can be gay, you can be a murderer, and not have as much pushback and outcry as when you say, I'm going to start following Yahweh's commands. When it comes to the church people, I know, because like I said, I was a deacon in a Baptist church. and then become pastor in that same Baptist church as we are breaking down those barriers and strongholds that has held God's people captive for these 1,500 years. 2,000 years since Messiah, but really the last 1,500 years, 1,800 years, has kept Yahweh's people captive. And especially in the last 200 years since the advent, basically, of Christmas and Easter, which has become really commercialized and popular. Um, you want to piss somebody off in the church, just tell them you don't do Easter and Christmas no more. Trust me, I know. And I have several videos in my archives showing where me and my family were coming out of this at that time. Lucas chapter 16. And he also said to his taught ones, he being Jesus, Yeshua, there was a certain rich man who had a manager, and he was accused to him as wasting his possessions. So having called him, he said to him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, for you are no longer able to be a manager. And the manager said within himself, what shall I do? For my master is taking my managership away from me. I am unable to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do. When I am removed from the managership, they might receive me into their houses. And calling every one of his master's debtors to him, he said to the first, how much you owe my master? How much do you owe my master? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, okay, take your bill, sit down quickly, and write me out 50. Here, your debt's paid for. Just give me half of it. Then another said, and how much do you owe? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. He said, okay, here's your bill paid in full. Give me 80. And the master praised the unrighteous manager because he had acted shrewdly, because the sons of this age are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. And I say to you, make friends for yourselves by unrighteous mammon, that when you fail, they shall receive you into everlasting dwellings. It's grace, okay? This is the epitome of grace right here. He who is trustworthy in what is least is trustworthy also in much, and he who is unrighteous in what is least is unrighteous in much. If therefore you have not been trustworthy in the unrighteous mammon, who shall entrust you to be true, to the truth? And if you have not been trustworthy in what is another man's, who shall give you what is your own? No servant is able to serve two masters, for he shall either hate the one and love the other, or he shall cling to the one and despise the other. You're not able to serve Yahweh, Elohim, and Mammon. And the Pharisees who loved silver heard all this, and were sneering at him. And he said to them, you are those who declare yourselves right before men, righteous before men, but Elohim knows your heart, because what is highly thought of among men is an abomination in the sight of Elohim. What is highly thought of among men. That's one of our red flags. Everyone loves Christmas. Everyone loves Easter. It's said that 2 times out of the year that the church buildings are filled up with people, and that's Christmas and Easter. Uh, if everyone likes it, you might want to think twice about what are you doing. Verse 16, the Torah and the prophets are until John. Since the reign of Elohim is being announced and everyone is doing violence upon it. Now listen, this is Jesus saying this. It is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one tittle of the Torah to fall. The Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moses. That's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, the book of the law, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is the second telling of the law, second telling of Exodus. See, if we begin to really fully read what Jesus says, what God says, um, 2 are the same, 1 and the same, Jesus and God, fully man, then it begins to transform our minds, and we realize that a lot of these traditions we've been taught in religion is false. It's a lie. Verse 18, and everyone putting away his wife and marrying another commits adultery. And everyone marrying her who is put away from her husband commits adultery. But there was a certain rich man who used to dress in purple and fine linen and lived luxuriously every day. And there was a beggar named Eleazar, being covered with sores, who was placed at his gate, and longing to be fed with crumbs which fell on the rich man's table. Indeed, even the dogs came and licked his sores. It came to be that the beggar died, and was carried by the messengers to the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man also died and was buried. And while suffering tortures in Sheol, having lifted up his eyes, he saw Abraham far away, and Eleazar in his bosom. Crying out, he said, Father Abraham, have compassion on me, and send Eleazar to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am suffering in this flame. Okay, Jesus is telling us about hell here. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your life you received your good, and likewise Eleazar the evil. But now he's comforted and you suffer. The only difference was Eleazar only suffered for a short time. The ruler is going to suffer for all eternity. And besides all this, between us is a great chasm that has been set, so that those who wish to pass from here to you are unable, nor do those from there pass to us. And he said, Then I beg you, Father, that you would send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, lest they also come to this place of torture. Abraham said to him, They have Moshe and the prophets. Let them hear from them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they shall repent. But Abraham said to him, If they did not hear Moshe and the prophets, neither would they be persuaded, even if one should rise from the dead. You either have God in your heart or you don't. You're either going to adhere to God's law or you're not. We got to move. We're coming up on 27 minutes. I try to keep these around. Most of the readings are around 30 minutes. When I used to read the 10 chapters a day, it'd take me about an hour, hour and a half. Helium. Let's get to Psalms 59. And really, I mean, people balk at, 10 chapters a day, that's too much, Pastor Matt. Well, the third overtime in the football game ain't too much time for you to sit down. You can't give God an hour of your day. It's pretty sad. 59. Deliver me from my enemies, O my Elohim. If you are new to this channel, when I say Elohim, that is the Lord. Yahweh is God, and Yeshua is Jesus. Moshe is Moses, of course. Deliver me from my enemies, O Elohim. Set me on high from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of wickedness, and save me from the men of blood. For look, they have lain in wait for my life. Mighty men assemble against me, for no transgression or sin of mine, O Yahweh, for no guilt of mine. They run and prepare themselves. Awake to help me and see. And you, Yahweh Elohim of hosts, Elohim of Israel, awake to punish the nations. Show no favor to any wicked traitors. Selah. They return at evening, and they howl like a dog, and go around the city. See, they belch out with their mouth. Swords are in their lips. For who is listening? But you, Yahweh, laugh at them. You mock all the nations. O my strength, I wait for you. My Elohim is my strong tower. My Elohim of loving commitment. Elohim does go before me. He lets me look upon my enemies. Do not kill them, lest my people forget. Scatter them by your power and bring them down. O Yahweh, our shield. The sin of their mouth is the words of their lips, and they are captured in their pride, and for the cursing and lying they utter. Bring them to an end in wrath, and bring them to an end, that they be no more. And let them know that Elohim is ruling in Jacob, to the ends of the earth, Selah. And at evening they return, and they howl like a dog, and go around the city. They wander up and down for food and wine, if they are not satisfied. And I sing of your power. And in the morning I sing aloud of your loving commitment. For you have been my strong tower, and a refuge in the day of my distress. O my strength, to you I sing praises, for Elohim is my strong tower, my Elohim of loving commitment. Proverbs chapter 30. I'm going to cruise. We will read 31 and then 1 tomorrow, probably. Mishle 30, or Proverbs 30, verse 1 says, the words of Agur, son of Yahweh, a message. This man declared to Ethiel and Ucal, for I am more stupid than anyone, and I do not have the understanding of a man, and I have not learned wisdom that I should know the knowledge of the set apart one. Who has gone up to the heavens and come down? Who has gathered the wind in his fist? Who has bound the waters in a garment, and who has established the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name? If you know it, every word of Eloi is tried. Eloi is also another word for the Lord. He is a shield to those taking refuge in him, and do not add to his words, lest he reprove you, and you be found a liar. Romans 3 and 2. Let God be true, and every man a liar. 2 matters I have asked of you, deny them not to me before I die. Remove falsehood and a lying word far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me my lawful bread, lest I become satisfied and deny you, and say, who is Yahweh? And lest I be poor and steal and seize the name of my Elohim. Do not slander a servant to his master, lest he curse you, and you be found guilty. There is a generation that curses its father, and does not bless its mother. There is a generation clean in its own eyes. That would be today. But not washed from its own filth. There is a generation. Oh, how haughty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are swords, and whose jaw teeth are knives, to devour the poor from the earth, from off the earth, and the needy from among men. The leech has 2 daughters. Give, give. 3 are not satisfied. 4 that never say enough. Sheol and the barren womb. Soil not satisfied with water, and fire which never says enough. An eye that mocks his father and scorns to obey his mother. Ravens of the wadi dig it out. Ravens of the river dig it out. And young eagles eat it. These matters are too marvelous for me. And 4 which I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the heavens, and the way of a snake on a rock. The way of a ship in the heart of the sea, and the way of a man with a young woman. This is the way of an adulterous woman. Adulterous woman, when we talked about it in Proverbs, is a false church, false religion, false doctrine. She shall eat and wipe her mouth and say, I have not done wickedness. Today's church. We're doing it right. That's for the Jews. Under 3 matters the earth trembles, and under 4 it is unable to bear. Under a servant when he reigns, and a fool when he is satisfied with food. Under a hated woman who marries, and a female servant who supplants her mistress. There are 4 matters which are little on the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a weak folk, yet they make their homes in the crags. The locusts have no sovereign, yet they all go in formation. A spider takes hold with 2 hands, and is in sovereigns' places, or in kings' palaces. There are 3 matters that are going well, and 4 are good in walking. A lion which is mighty among beasts, and does not turn away from facing all. A greyhound and a male goat, and a king whose army is with him. If you have been foolish in lifting up yourself, or if you have plotted evil, put your hand on your mouth. For as milk under pressure brings forth curds, and as A nose under pressure brings forth blood. So wrath under pressure brings forth strife. And that concludes today's Daily Bread. 35 minutes in, not bad. I want you to really diligently think about what I said about keeping God's feast days, keeping Yahweh's feast days. Go look this up for yourself. Leviticus 11 is the dietary law. We don't have to do that. Yes, you do. Was it 24? Leviticus 23 or 24? I think it's 24. Is the feast days of Yahweh. Um, Diligently look it up. Start praying on it, on what you should do. You don't want to be found wanting at the day of judgment when all this information was given to you. Um, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out some of my content. Check out my content. If you don't like it, fine. It's not a big deal to me. Um, my job is to simply lay out this information, this truth. What you do with it, you're on your own. Um, we hit, like I said yesterday, at 100 subscribers, I give away actually 2 pieces of silver to the members or the subscribers who are really been really diligently from the beginning and following me. Um, at 200, I'll give away another piece of silver. 999, fine silver. Um, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit for me saying thank you for following. Trying to get all this in here real quick. Y'all be blessed, be encouraged, and always be frustrated. This is Oilfield Disciple. We will catch you on the next go round.